welcome. Let's talk too. And tonight, we have an interesting show to talk about. Interesting topic. Will Africa bend over again? Featuring Dr. Short. Dr. Short, how you doing?
Man, I'm okay. I'm okay. How are you?
We got some cool air. I'm glad this weather is finally getting itself together. I don't know. I've been having little eczema problems lately, and I usually don't have flare-ups with my eczema, but I've been having a little bit of problems. And these mosquitoes is just, this might be the Bill Gates mosquitoes.
Oregano oil can help.
Okay. Great. Yeah, oregano oil. You're right. I'm going to check it out. So, Dr. Short, we have an interesting group of characters on this flyer.
Mm-hmm.
Will Africa bend over again? You guys in the chat, that question is for you guys in the chat as well. We want you guys to participate, be part of the show. And will Africa continue selling out? Will they bend over to the LGBTQ agenda? And all this other stuff going on. So take it away, Dr. Short.
Well, there's some faces that are not on the flyer, but I just want to say to people that, and I don't think you have a doo-doo on here. You have a lot of faces, but you don't have a doo-doo. But you can put a picture of a doo-doo up, can't you? Can you put all the people up that you have images for that you didn't put on the flyer? Make certain we cover it. And we can, forgive me, I'm going to make certain I have this so we can proceed in good order, like we're like a white platform.
Yeah.
Yes. We're going to have a white platform. And I want to get busy on that right now so we can do this. And
someone already said, y'all got a question for Dr. Short already?
Okay, go ahead. We can even start with questions.
Oh.
I mean,
they want you to talk about. They want you to talk about Niger.
Niger. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say to everybody, I've been so disappointed that I did a show with this brother Q called France, Africa's F Word. And it has lagged. It's gotten 2,200 views, but it should have been 4,000 or 5,000 because we were putting it out there, explaining what was going on in lay terms. And I want to get the names of those folks because, I'm going to just say this. African names aren't difficult for me to remember, but the way that stuff changes so fast over and over and over, or sometimes they stay too long. You're so used to a name until you can't imagine another name coming along. And then the stuff will change repeatedly where you can't remember, you don't remember who did what or who shot John. But let me just get to this brother's name. I need to get to, because I understand that some people's names I know better than others. I could tell you what they're up to. Let me get this thing right now so we can talk about the whole situation. Because it's real simple. Real simple. And so one, I want to get this. I'll get this right now. And so we're in Niger. Let's run through some basics. I'm going to make certain I pulled this from a source. Okay. Starting off, Niger arguably could be said is in like the heart of Northwest Central Africa it's sort of the way that Uganda or the Central African Republic, or for that matter, say Zambia or Botswana, are like almost in the heart. They're surrounded by lots of countries. I mean, Congo's got lots of countries bordering it, but they're not landlocked. So you have several geographic center points. Niger arguably could be one of the center points for Midwestern Central Africa on the west side. Congo would be like in the center, you could say the whole Sahel. I mean, the two countries, Chad and Niger, would be like the center of like if you were to divide Africa in half, or if you were to do it, the west part and the south. But anyway, let me just say this: Niger is a vast country of, at minimum, they never get the numbers right. So I'm going to round to say maybe they have 27 to 30 million people. It's a landlocked country. It's bordered by Libya, Chad, Nigeria, which is to the south, Benin, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Algeria. And it's the largest landlocked country in Africa. 80% of the land is in the Sahara Desert. And what we want to say about them, let's run this down. The over half, in fact, I think they undercount them, of the population in Niger is the Hausa group. And this is important because the Hausa people, this border that was created by European colonialists, divided the Hausa people between Nigeria and Niger. In Nigeria, the three largest groups, the Yoruba, the Igbo, and companion East Delta groups, and the Hausa, comprise 60% of 225 to 250, if not 300 million people. I don't really think they keep up with the African population. I don't think the governments do. The populations are growing very rapidly. But needless to say that there are huge numbers of Hausa people. So maybe as many as, say, 50 million Hausa in Nigeria, and right across the border in Niger, it's Hausa dominated, and kin groups like the Zarma and Songhay. Okay. By the way, the Hausa are partnered very closely with another group of people called the Fulani. If you put the Hausa Fulani together, and they stick together in Nigeria, if you put the Fulani with the Hausa in Niger, that's 60% of the population. And why that's important is the military in Nigeria has historically been dominated by the Hausa ethnic group. The white people use the Muslims who they would put in the army, but they would deny them certain sorts of things. What they would do through their system of indirect rule is that the white folks would literally outsource the ruling of their colonial possessions to people. In a sense, it's called indirect rule. The way the British ruled the Africans is they had their boule, or their folks who served the interests of the white people. And basically, they were allowed to scam and screw over as long as they didn't go too far. And they would run specific areas. That would have to send white men in large numbers. And if you consider the fact that Nigeria got its independence in 1960, there may have been maybe white people in Nigeria. When you sit and think about the city of New York, has maybe 20,000 police.
You guys, Dr. Short dropped for a second. Just be patient. Make sure you guys hit the like button. You on, Dr. Short?
Yeah. What I was saying is that the British had a system called indirect rule where they used collaborators, so for that matter, people that were enemies of the freedom of their own people, who would be typically, for all of you phony conscious community people, all you phony Afrocentrics, all you phony people that worship kings and queens, basically the emirs and the obas and the chiefs or whatever, these people that all you run after and worship African kings and queens, at a certain point, these kings and queens were the same thing that the boule and our sellout elites are to us. They were in business with the people, exploiting the country in which they lived. And they lived privileged lives, went and studied in Europe, would travel, and they lived better than the other people. They're basically the African version of house niggers. And by the way, these African house niggers were the great-grandchildren, if not children, of the slave traders. So all these people are running to places like Ghana. And I like Ghana. I like Ghanaians. But those kings and queens that have all that gold and all the stuff in the stools, they got that through conquering and selling people to white folks. And to show you how deeply, deeply, deeply stained the crooked African ruling class, the kings and queens that we all want to be like because we're stupid or we're evil or both. The kings and queens are the dominant people that were in northern Nigeria when the Civil War ended and supposedly they freed 4 or 5 million Black people. The Nigerians continued to have millions of people enslaved, as many as 3 million, all the way into the middle 1930s. So my cousin, who was born in 1932, was 4 years old when Nigeria ended slavery. Okay. And the white people pressed them to do it. Get that. White people pressed them to end slavery. And it was in the Islamic part for all the Black Muslims. I said, Islam's so free and Islam is the way to freedom. Well, the biggest slaveholders in Nigeria at that point were Muslim. deal with that for what it is. And it's interesting, racist, white, so-called Christians pressed so-called down Africans, full-blooded Africans with their African traditions and culture intact. They had to be pressed to stop enslaving each other. And so we can't get into what's going on in Africa without first recognizing that from the 1300s all the way up till now, for the most part, with some exceptions, African elite have gone along. Once they've lost militarily or whatever, they made a treaty, they made deals. The same way the tethers come here and make deals to act against us. It's no different from where they come from. It's a very, the mass moral, ethical bankruptcy throughout all of Africa, north, east, and west. And with a very short element or short period, an epoch, where you did have true, genuine African.
You guys, Dr. Short dropped again. Just be patient. I don't know what's going on. We got some crazy weather going on.
You're having signal challenges.
Yeah. The weather is a little tricky right now.
If necessary, let's reschedule. It will really piss me off to have to keep changing it over and repeating. It becomes confusing. It's a whole lot of stuff to talk about, and the interruptions throw off my thinking. I don't know what got cut off, and it has to be annoying to people that listen. So if it's really going to do this, like another 2 or 3 times, we may want to reschedule when you've got a good signal. You follow me? I'm not trying to be difficult, but that's like, God.
Yeah, we should be good, Dr. Short.
So you're saying it's not going to cut off every 10?
It shouldn't.
Okay, so we're going to give this one more, and then otherwise we're going to do it again when we know that there isn't a challenge.
Okay.
Okay, it's not your fault, but it's not your fault if I get annoyed with it too. So let's see. Now I'm going to try this again. The African elites, kings, queens, so forth. And if they didn't have a king or queen or a chief, the white folks invented African chiefs or leaders that they could use to screw over the African masses, the various people. That's foundational. And even, because we're going to talk a little bit about Ghana, wherever, the African leaders have always been able to sit across the table and make deals at the expense of the masses of their people, which is exactly what the CBC, the Boule, the Black Greeks, the Black Masons, certain sorts of Black business people, Republicans, Democrats, degenerate mayors, male and female, sit down and sell out people. And that's why we ask the question, will Africa bend over again? Actually, the question should be, when is Africa going to stop bending over? When is there going to be a moral, ethical renaissance throughout all of Africa where the scum get run out? And that's the question we also need to ask ourselves in America. When are we going to get tired of filthy, liar, traitor, degenerate enemies of our group that we allow to speak for us when they're our enemies? And I can give you a very simple example. There was a famine, I believe it was in the 80s, and a major drought in one of the Sahelian countries. I believe it was Mali, but I could be wrong. And it's happened in other countries where the crooked leadership in these African countries were demanding bribes in order for people to come in and feed their starving people. So we don't care if the people starve, but if you care so much, pay me and I'll let you feed them. And this has happened many times. This has happened in many countries where the food and such is stolen. It happened in Somalia. When not that they care anything about Somalis, but certain Somali leaders who didn't necessarily care about another group of Somalis were stealing the rice and other things. The relief food was stolen in the early 90s, and it was sold to people going through a famine. In other words, we're not going to let people give you this good rice. You're going to pay for this. Take that ring out your nose. Take it out your ear. We don't care what. We don't care who gave it to us. You're going to pay for it. This is going on right now in Yemen, another place where there are black people in the southwestern corner of the Arabian Peninsula, where the food being sent in by relief organizations is sold to people at a premium. And folks don't have a choice but to pay for food that was given for free to crooked elites. Now, Nigeria in particular, I'm going to emphasize that Nigeria became a federation in 1910 under Lord Lugard. They got the three parts and they made and invented a nation. And you have to understand, much of Africa are invented nations that have many ethnic, sub-ethnic, national groups, different languages, and they're put together in these cobbled up nations that serve the interests of white people in Europe. Now, I was saying this before this damn signal dropped, that there was a short period of time where Africa had some good leadership. That's probably because, like black people are typically, you get good leadership when white people are kicking us in the ass. And when they stop, everybody starts cooning. It's as if we won't be decent to each other unless we're facing an attack from outside. It seems as if, why can't we, damn it, be good to each other no matter what other people. In fact, we should expect, it's to be expected that we would respect and look out for each other on some level, whether someone else hates you or not. Okay, that doesn't always happen. And yes, I'm speaking generalizations. I don't care who doesn't like it. It's true. But Africa had some good leaders. Everybody has some good leaders. In particular, in the later 1900s, between, say, 1930 and, say, 1990. And by the way, I'm not going to put Mandela in that group. How about that? I'm not talking about Mandela. And you heard about his daughter, the one that was on drugs, his granddaughter, and she's dead at the age of, what, 40-something? Damn.
Well, let me ask you, Dr. Short, quick one.
And someone had a question, and again, we've got the two interruptions. So,
if we had to choose between him or Winnie, which one would we choose?
Oh, well, I like Winnie all the way. I mean, Nelson can't do anything for me. Nelson sold the people of South Africa out. He's their version of Obama and did a lot of things like Obama did. Nelson Mandela basically made gay people, constitutionally protected people, gave them like favored status. Oh, yes, he did. The first country to constitutionally say it's cool being gay is South Africa.
So here's a question here for you. Someone said, is the EFF bending over because Malema seems to be very liberal as pertaining to the LGBTQ?
Well, I mean, he's basically adhering to the law of the land. Okay. That's the law of South Africa. Yet, these scam Africanists and other people are liars about Africa. They lie so damn much. And we're lazy. One thing we know is, well, Africans can dance. When I look at videos that Black Americans post on Africa, typically, it's somebody dancing, or it's some food, or it's some, it's rarely political stuff. Or they'll even do what white people do some nature pictures, or look at African curios. Or look, Africans have art. They dance like we do. Why not talk about the political realities of that country? We're guilty. We have a very filthy, degenerate traitor, educated, so-called educated, miseducated class that is stupid. We're getting a spear stuck up our ass by everybody because the people who we've been told the talented, I'm not even just talking about boule people. I'm talking about people that didn't pledge, that aren't freaks, that aren't Masons. They're shallow as hell. They're dumb as hell. They're lazy as hell. Mm-hmm. They're saying you see something, you don't ask a question. I mean, people pay more attention to picking lipstick or a high fructose sweetened drink than they are understanding the world that they live in. I mean, it take more time. Look at how many sheets are in a toilet paper roll than how factual is what you're reading or hearing. I'm not saying you have to be a genius. You could just, I don't know. I sent you that video I was talking about the people in Ohio. I didn't know anything, but that's the question. Something doesn't, I don't know. So let me look. And in these days and times, there's disinformation on the web. But you know what? At least you can almost get a partially truthful analysis in the palm of your hand. If you really, used to not, I'm going to keep emphasizing it, used to be when you didn't know, and there wasn't the internet, and there weren't cell phones. If you didn't have a library in your house, if you didn't know someone that knew, you had to go to the library and look for it. Nowadays, you have a question, you can pick up your phone, go into Google, go into DuckDuckGo, go into any of those, and ask a question and get an answer within seconds. So what I'm going to say of Malema, I see him, he's been attacking the government of Uganda around its decision to try to protect its young people and protect its population from imperialism. He bitches about imperialism, but doesn't see this LGBTQ thing as imperialism. It makes Malema, either he's bought off, which is a possibility, or he's stupid on that subject, and then you have to wonder why. Why is he worried about the kind of sex that people have in Uganda? He should be worried about getting a toupee for that strange head he's got. He looks like a fish that's had the scales pulled off. I mean, I'm just saying. And he says a lot of stuff, but a lot of people don't trust him in South Africa. So when I see a Black person like him, who's built him up, who's giving him money? And I'm going to ask you this, say this of Malema. The Black people who really fought to end the white rule in South Africa to this moment, not unlike the United States, where we have hundreds of Black political prisoners in America, the Black South African freedom fighters are dying wasting in prisons all over South Africa. Why doesn't his bald-headed ass speak up for them? Because he's some kind of a liar. I'm not saying on everything, but there's something not right there. I'm not saying all, certain stuff I agree with, but there are people who will tell you enough of what is true that you agree with to cover for something else. You have to ask, why is he talking about freedom? And yet if Zimbabwe is being sanctioned and starved because they don't want to promote LGBTQ, you don't see that as evil? You haven't noticed that Mozambique, a country that borders South Africa, on its northeastern border, that they've been forced to become a gay-affirming country to get aid and to get help because their country is being attacked in its northern portions by foreign-funded Islamic terrorists? You don't see that? He's there. I'm here in America. You don't know. And there are Mozambicans that live in South Africa. I've been to South Africa twice. You don't know the reality of your neighbors. You don't know that there's an HIV problem still in South Africa. You don't know about this. It's curious. And he's not a poor man, and he shouldn't be poor, but someone's funding him. Always look for where the money's coming from. I don't know, but I will say this. If you speak up for gay people, you can get lots of money from George Soros. It's open, and it used to be Open Society, and now they have other names. You can get all kinds of money. If you just support gayness, they will give you money. There's all kinds. They're dumping money all over Africa to promote gayness. I need to tell folks, definitely send me a donation. I got a lady friend in Tanzania. I've got to buy a visa for her to get out. But my cousin is a U.S. ambassador to Tanzania. And I genuinely believe if he's under Blinken, he's promoting LGBTQ. And he's a Baptist preacher. Damn.
Another question, Dr. Short. Will Nigerian people, will Nigerian people rise up against the government if the Akawas invades Niger?
Niger. You know, something's got to give in Nigeria. Something's got to give. Now, let's just be real. Again, and this is to the stupid Black Americans listening that like OFAGA. Obama hurt Nigeria. He hurt all of Africa. He hurt Black people everywhere. Just every time I think about Obama, I get and feel enraged. What he's done. A lot of what you see that's wrong in Africa and Black America and Latin America and in the Pacific, where they're mass killing Black people in West Papua, and Obama's Indonesian family is helping to wage genocide against Black people in Papua. That's Obama's family. You wonder where that $200 million, some of it came from what they're taking from Papua, West Papua, and killing the people, putting people on crosses, deliberately letting people get AIDS. I mean, this is what they do. Everybody's on depot, so the women will be sterile. This is what Obama's Indonesian family's doing to the Blacks in West Papua. And y'all got that faggot's picture and stuff in your houses. We're a disgrace. Some people should hate us over Obama, not because we got him to do, but we back people. We don't dig, we don't ask, we don't think. Now, let me just say something. Nigeria had a good president. Now, he looked like a tar baby with that silly ass hat he had on, but he was honest. His name was Goodluck, I think, Johnson. He was a good president, but he didn't support abortion and LGBTQ, and Obama hated him. Yep, Anybody, if you don't want to like get screwed in the ass and kill babies, man, the Democrats, they just can't work with you. Not only did Obama support baby killing, and they pushed DEPO, which fucks up women for all the countries in sub-Saharan Africa. Hillary Clinton in 2013 got all of them to agree to get that deadly DEPO shot that causes all sorts of cancers and problems, mental health issues in African women, breast cancer. Obama and them sent that all over, in particular to Nigeria, Tanzania, Mozambique, to prevent the population growth. Okay, and on top of that, while they promoted LGBTQ and Biden's continued it, there was a very effective program in fighting AIDS in Africa that was supported by, oh my God, this is humiliating. I have to say this. Damn it. Damn black people for being behind these filthy, degenerate, sodomite Democrats. Damn, I have to say this hurts me to my heart. George W. Bush had a very effective program that was saving the lives of Africans. You don't know how that hurts me to my heart to have to give him credit for anything. Mm. But he was saving this ex-druggy drunk had a program to save African lives. Same way he had a program to help HBCUs. Yes, he did. Bush, his grandfather was a banker for Hitler, started putting more money in black schools. It wasn't enough, but he put more in. And when he left office, Obama came in and cut the money for black schools, cut the block grant programs, cut all the things. You had to go through gays or illegals to get stuff. This is the beginning of black suffering. Didn't allow black folks who were subprime lenders to get help to save the homes they were buying. So there's so many homeless black people. Obama did this to us. And you're a dumb fuck nigga if you still like Obama. And they're going to put his stud ass, I hope it's a woman, wife, to run for president. And just because you think she has a pussy doesn't mean you should vote for her. In fact, this is the first time, they have a thing called the stool seat for the Catholic Church. Have you heard of that? To make certain that no woman became a pope, they had a chair that you sat in that had a hole in the center so your nuts could fall down to make certain that you were a dude. They need a chair like that for Michelle Obama before she runs for anything. I just need to know. I still would vote for her if nothing fell down. It was all true that she had those kids that looked like her obstetrician and the other dude. I don't believe nothing. I don't believe nothing. I don't believe nothing about it. I don't believe the birth certificate. And I especially don't believe the dumbness of black American people, that they're behind that punk ass nigga all these years. And his little retarded, deviant, pedophile puppet, Biden. All they're doing is hurting black people. Now, let me just say this. I have to get that out, brother. Because some people, I'm telling you, we're going to pay for being stupid behind that little freak. I'm telling you, we're paying for it. And other people that see through this, they think black Americans have become the laughing stock of the non-white world over OFAGA. And we can't see it. Especially you sisters. Because you figure if he marries someone with hairy legs and all that stuff, there's hope for you. I mean, why would you want him? Anyway, he did have money. But a lot of people have money. But Obama and them destroyed us here. Worked to undermine democracy in Brazil, where they were doing affirmative action and all kinds of programs to help black Brazilians. Obama and them went and took down the Brazilian government, and they helped put in so they were out killing black people all over Brazil. And y'all like Obama. If you support Obama in spirit, you're guilty for the mass murder of black people all over the world, and the suffering of black people in this country. Some of us deserve the pain we're in for being behind such evil people. Even if you couldn't stop them, you shouldn't morally back someone. Oh, they're black. Would you say that about a rapist or a carjacker? Oh, it's a black person carjacking me. Well, I guess that's okay. And then we're sort of like that when it's a murder, black person killing a black person, don't have a peep. A white person kills a black person who might be armed. Oh, that's genocide. Like that fat bitch in Philadelphia that was shoplifting. And you put it up on your Instagram page, you stupid pork chop feminist. I mean, you said you did it and they caught you. And they see her as a freedom fighter. So I guess if I go into Popeyes and steal a couple of sandwiches, I'm Martin Luther King.
You might get a statue. You get a street named after you, Dr. Short.
Yeah, and you know what? And all I have to do is say mama and I can't breathe. I mean, a lot of people can't breathe when they're getting choked having sex. I guess that's fighting for your rights too. Okay. Remember the Dawn, whatever, where Wesley Snipes was choked, watch a woman getting choked, getting turned on. Yeah. I guess that was a sit-in or maybe a fuck-in. I don't know. Anyway, let me stop.
So someone asked Dr. Short.
Hold on, let me finish my point. Now answer the question. And while he messed us up over here in the Western Hemisphere, over in Africa, everybody that was benefiting from the programs that Bush put in, imagine that. Again, y'all don't understand how humiliating it is. Obama destroyed all those programs to fight AIDS. Obama fought all of those programs. And Bush wanted AFRICOM in Africa, but the Africans told him no. And for the most part, Bush left it there. Obama made certain that they had soldiers and shit to get people killed in Africa. I mean, he did everything he could to get such shit off in Africa, right? Obama did this. Okay. And to support Islamic fundamentalism and so forth, started this shit up all over the Middle East and Africa. Sure he did. So you cut the stuff. While you cut the AIDS program, you promote LGBTQ. While you send genetically modified food and you do all these crazy things with food, right? But you push abortion. And it's like, wow. And it goes on and on. Real basic things that Africans need, like safe drinking water and programs like that. Nope. We want y'all to suck dicks. We want women to march carpet. We want women to kill babies. We want men to get their asses blown out. That's America's dream. And he didn't just put it in policy. He took his tight pants wearing ass over to Africa to preach sucking dicks. Damn. So, and he's full of shit. And all the people that voted for him are full of shit, unless y'all have repented for that. I believe God's going to ask that you vote for Obama in 2012. I can say, no, Lord. No, Lord. But do remember me. I ain't vote for his ass. I can go. Because they enter in my good and faithful servant. Fuck those niggas over there that did in 2012. I mean, so I'm going to watch them get barbecued and shit. And I'll be eating a big leg of lamb, running around with the angels and shit. Watching the bad niggas that sold out, them with their Greek. In fact, they're going to send them on fire with their regalia and shit. Man, that's going to be a great video. I mean, I'm going to probably replay that thing about 50 times. Yeah, so that's anyway. Yeah, go through the burning sands now, sellouts, right? Anyway, so Obama messed us up, and he messed Africa up, and again, you need to understand that under Obama, I'm glad I'm bringing up this bitch ass nigga. Under Obama and Hillary Clinton, the one that called black people super predators, it's the same one that gave super predator Islamists weapons to start killing people all over Africa. Her and Obama and that Gilligan Island looking bitch, Susan Rice. And it was It was Obama and Hillary and Susan Rice that told the French under that liar, racist named Sarkozy, that the French could go back and fuck over Africans like they used to do because Bush, damn, I gotta say this again. Bush made the French back up off of Africans. Oh, God. Do you realize it's hurting my mouth to say something nice about him. And it's making me mad that he checked the French. The French couldn't do, and of course I'm certain he's a white supremacist. CIA family. He treated Africans better than Obama did. Okay, you had a question.
Yeah, as the younger people say, make it make sense. The question was, will Liberians ever get their shit together?
Literally, I'm helping a guy whose crew from Tubman. He's waiting on a friend of mine from Nigeria, from Abuja, to go to Liberia to monitor the elections, to coach him on filling in the worker visa request for Canada. And so that's another visa I got to get some money for. See how to help him pay his damn fees to get his ass out of Liberia. This is my adopted Liberian son. I'm going to say about Liberia and Sierra Leone. Put those two together. Those are invented countries. Again, like all the countries in Africa, invented. Their ruling elite are a combination of Black people from America and other places, in particular for Sierra Leone, more so than Liberia. The Americo-Liberians, damn. And the Creoles. Okay, I have family in Sierra Leone and in Liberia. Okay, damn. Shit. After this question. Oh my God. Shit. Okay. Let me try to say this. And it's generalizations, but it's mostly true. The elite in both Liberia and Sierra Leone have a degree of bias. I'm talking about the people whose families have been there a few hundred years. They are more doing better on a certain level than the indigenous people who've been in those two countries, and they don't care about the majority of the people in the country. That's how it appears to me. I went to school with the nephew of that woman that looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger with a copper tone can, a tan, and a turban on. What's her name? Sirleaf Johnson. Sirleaf, who's the woman they had her speak at the before Congress as one of the first African women heads of state. Her nephew was trying to recruit us to go to Liberia to kill Liberians to help the Americo-Liberians have power. My mother helped establish a Liberian church out in Beltsville, Maryland, to show you how close. This is some crazy shit. I find a lot of Liberians clueless, not all, but many. They have the really good things about Africans, I find that they lack. And the really good things about Black Americans, I find that they lack. They're somewhere else. In fact, they're like our boule. They are, I'll give you an example. I went to a wedding and I didn't want to go, but I escorted my mother up to Philly for the pastor of a church that my mother helped establish. You know, this man and them had like a $50,000 wedding at a big white hotel in Philly. And they got people that are hungry back in Liberia. You have a $50,000 wedding. I mean, a really big wedding. So the Liberian elite are estranged and don't give a damn about the people. And I know when I spoke out against people in Liberia being killed with lab manufactured Ebola, to show you how strange Liberians are and shifty, the only two people spoke out that I'm aware of about Liberians being killed by a laboratory manufactured virus. It's a Liberian doctor and myself. All the other Liberians were quiet. And in fact, one of my teachers mentioned to me when he asked about people, there's a very slummy area of Monrovia called West Point, where people eat human meat and stuff like this. Yes, people, they really do. They really do. They really do. I wish to God make me a liar so Africa would be upright and strong. I feel that way about Black Americans. Make everything I'm saying critical false so we would be in a better place, but it's not true. So you got all kinds of prostitution and drugs. One of the Liberian diplomatic staff's son went to UVA with me. The name is Morlu, John Morlu, if you're Liberian. And wow, 29 years ago, the day that the O.J. Simpson verdict was determined, John Morlu was denouncing me for saying that I supported O.J. and I always hated O.J. Okay, I never liked O.J. I was surprised he got acquitted. I just expected him to get busted, even if he didn't do it. And Morlu proceeds to tell me that Black Americans are all criminals. Black Americans have no morals, and that we're, basically a bad people, all of us. Are you hearing me, Brother Q? All Black Americans are no damn good. We're liars, we cheat, we steal, all of us are thieves. And we're violent, this, that, and the other. And I said to him, brother, surely you're right that there's some really bad Black Americans. I would agree with anyone. I've seen experience, but there are a lot of good ones, way more good than bad. And he objected to that. No, all of you are bad, right? And he says, you guys just do everything evil. And I said to him, John, I think there's some things that we don't do that you do in your own country that are evil that we would never do. And I says, and he says, what do you mean? We are not what? And I said to him, well, we don't eat penises. And he responded,
about this.
Yeah, we were at war. We are at war. So in other words, in Liberia, they eat penises of the people that they kill. And they eat the organs of people that they kill, but in particular the penis for power. You eat the testicles to get power. And this guy is the son of a diplomat that went to University of Virginia, so I guess that would make him well educated, and he felt eating dicks was righteous. If this is the mindset of at least some of the people that are in the elite classes there, you're in a lot of darkness. It's alleged, I'm not saying it's true, that the president of Liberia is LGBTQ. I'm not going to say who said this to me, but I can tell you this, it's alleged you can't play for the national soccer team unless you're getting screwed by people to get to the national team for Liberia. Liberia, they're literally letting folk buy all kinds of land in Sierra Leone and Liberia. the Americo-Liberians, Charles Taylor. I mean, they're folks who think these guys are heroes. And I know folks like the Murrays and the other people, folk molesting people, human trafficking, and wherever they go, when they go to Ivory Coast or Ghana, the Americos and the others, they're on a different plane where they imagine themselves. I'm trying to think of, there's a family, there's a girl with the last name Prawl. The Prawls are a prominent family in Liberia. And the lady thought that she met a prince with the castle, and he ended up giving her a venereal disease where she ended up sterilized. I'm not saying that's all Liberians, but she's running with this white dude as a student at Howard. Nice looking lady she picked a white dude who masqueraded as owning a castle. Well, why are you staying in student housing if you have a castle? I'm giving you examples, anecdotes to the corrupt mindset of the, how can I say, the estranged Liberian elite. It's not everybody, but it's many. So I know what it's like. You go around the Liberians and they don't talk to you. I know Liberians who hate Black Americans. They blame us for the people that went over there. We've never been there, never done nothing to nobody there. And they have a resentment. If you meet people, there's a group called the Capelle or the Cran or whatever, and they think because you've got your slave name and other people have slave names, we have something to do with these people having literally, practically, my friends, chattel slavery almost into the 1950s in Liberia. This is what the Black Americans that went there did. And they've never really completely worked this thing out. And by the way, the African folks who are jealous of the Americo-Liberians and the intermixture of those, okay, and they have a word for people in Liberia that are not in the big cities. And basically, it's their way of saying nigger, country people. They don't care about, just like in America, the Black elite don't care about the masses. You can't advance if you don't have the baseline provision for the essentials for your people. You aren't getting any damn where. And another thing that contributes to the problem in Liberia, I'm going to say it, these goddamn Black American churches that tell you that they have a ministry in Liberia, they're doing something in Liberia. They ain't doing shit for the people in Liberia. If they were really serious, I'm going to say the AMEs and a range of other people, they should be doing lobbying for Liberia to be reconstructed from the wars that they had. Did they do it? Hell fucking no. So Liberia is in a bad space. It's a very rich country. And in fact, let me just get beyond all the Black people. And let me just give all the Liberians a pass, because some of them are fine people, I'm certain. The Rockefeller family owns Liberia at its heart. Firestone is a kin family to the Rockefellers. There's no fucking way that Liberia will ever get free as long as the Rockefellers are one of the richest, most powerful families in the world. They're not going to let people get their money for their rubber, their gold, their timber, whatever Liberia has. These white folks are going to get the majority of it. And anybody in Liberia that really tries to do anything for Liberia as a nation, like President Tolbert, they're going to get shot down and betrayed. So, in fact, one of the things that the Liberians have never done, and part of what fucks the Liberians and Africans in general, is, as I told this Sierra Leonean journalist I was speaking to, that African people, even now, the people in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea, have not yet, nor has Museveni, yet figured out that they're complaining. In fact, the Burkina Bee ambassador, the person that spoke for their head of state at the UN the other day, that video that you have, brother, was saying that they were complaining about not being able to have the arms necessary to protect their country. They've never imagined that in America, there are 80 million Black people. There are millions and millions of Blacks in France and in England. We are a living atomic bomb. The only Africans who figured this out when they were smart were the Black South Africans, to a lesser degree the Zimbabweans, the Ghanaians, Tanzanians, to a lesser degree the Portuguese-speaking African countries. And I'm saying this as a person that initiated the anti-genocide campaign for Sudan. Most Africans don't have any value for the other people in the diaspora, and they haven't figured out you have a hell of a constituency if you harness the support of Black Americans for an African cause. White folks fear us more than anything. The Africans see us as down and out and oppressed. We remind them of the broke ass people that they left behind when they get here. Have no value for us. At their demise. And I don't think the Africans are going to wake up to it. Not soon, unfortunately. Anybody African that halfway starts waking up to the essentiality of Blacks in the West, they tend to get assassinated. That's Olympio. That is Patrice Lumumba. That is Sankara. That is, what's his name, Madiba Keita. That is the one, Amilcar Cabral. The ones that have some idea, there's also the same for the one over in Mozambique, whose name I'm forgetting, the first leader, Manvani. The Africans that have some idea that they need to work with people throughout the world for the total liberation of the African continent, the CIA tends to kill their ass. They get rid of their asses fast because they know if Africans had a good ground game in the Western world, they couldn't pull this shit. And that's why they get the shithead, liar, degenerate Africans that have blonde wigs and use more skin lightener than Indians. They put them in power to keep everything clusterfucked and tribal and just among their clan or their family or their sublinguistic group. This is a fundamental problem. And it looks like, in fact, Niger is unique. The people in Niger, what they're doing is a repetition of what they did in the 70s. Most people don't know. When Africa got hit with a major drought starting late 60s and it carried into the 70s, killed hundreds of thousands of Africans, the ambassador of Niger and the government of Niger opened up its embassy to Black Americans to help them fight hunger and desertification. And out of this, you got this NGO called AfriCare, which has operations in a couple of dozen African countries. It's done some good. Sometimes certain Africans get it, but most of the time, the good Africans, the great African leaders, the first head of the Central African Republic, I think his name is Buganda. The French blew him up on the airplane. The first leaders that they had, the UPC for Cameroons, the French exterminated 10,000 of the best people in Cameroons. The good Africans, like our good people, Malcolm and Martin and Medgar and Mark Clark and Fred Hampton and others, they get killed, they get assassinated. Are there further questions? Because we can roll it.
Someone asked, do you think we can get control of our national parks and minerals? I need you to be a little bit more specific with your questions.
Yeah, like where?
Yeah. Emery, you asked that question about the national parks and minerals.
And which national parks?
You got to be more specific about that.
Okay, if he doesn't have an answer, you need to know how to frame a question before you ask it, you know.
Oh.
And so you look for a roll of toilet paper before you sit down to shit.
He said Freeman having first dibs on it all.
Okay, well, you know, I'm going to say this to you. That's an American question that I don't know enough about to answer. It's specified. I'm going to say this. People get super ideological around these little movements that have emerged. There's nothing wrong with being in a movement, but there's something wrong with being so doctrinaire until everything interjects around what you're interested in. I'm talking about Africa, so it's non-topical. Next, can we move on?
Just give us our motherfucking money first.
Yeah, that's really, yeah. And all this fighting and arguing between these different groups over how they classify and all, you wonder, that's the kind of shit the CIA and the FBI and the other people do to divide up black people, and they get these different schools and folks can't see eye to eye over a goddamn nuance, whether you say Negro or black or free, and folk ready to kill you over a word instead of looking at the fact that you're fighting for reparations. It's fucking immature and stupid. And the people who are in this come out of little cult groups and other things that are corrupted, and they go from one group to the other, spreading confusion. They get people who are well-meaning, or they turn them on to some new information, which can be useful, but they weaponize people against each other instead of sharing and pooling and having different perspectives and a unified cause. They act like storefront church niggas or fundamentalist Muslims where everybody has to do and say just like they say, or they hate you. But they don't like white supremacy, but they hate other black people. They don't agree with every goddamn thing that their semi-literate or semi-educated leaders throw at them. It's juvenile. It's juvenile.
One day you
and
guys,
it's psychotic.
Dr. Short and myself, we're going to have a show on reparations. It is amazing in the last few years. And Emery, this isn't towards you specifically, but it's amazing how many people would talk this reparation stuff and don't even know who Callie House was. But anyway, you got another question.
Yeah, or even if you don't know who Callie House is, it's amazing how many people don't go to the meetings. It's amazing how many people haven't researched just generic Black American history. I mean, it's not going to kill people. Again, I'm a little bit of a world traveler. There's nothing like the United States when it comes down to literature on Black people. No place else in the world, with the exception of maybe London and Paris. And there are other little places where you can get a little bit. It's improved in Brazil, I guess, if you're in Sao Paulo. Certain places that you can get information on Black people. But go to South Africa, and maybe it's changed since I was there last, but there was one bookstore in the Johannesburg area, one Black bookstore. We're talking about to serve about 8-9 million Black people, brother. Are you getting me? Mm-hmm. And it was in Soweto, and it was run by a white Hindu woman. And there was just a small section of books on Black people. It was very little. And the prices was high as shit on the Black stuff. It absolutely says, I'm in the middle of the ghetto in South Africa. And a white person runs the bookstore. And there's very little stuff on Black people. Okay. I know it's like be at the University of Ghana, and you go to the bookstore, and there are very few books. Most of them are textbooks. Very little information, and everything's. I'm telling you, books over there are way more expensive than here. So I mean, people can't even afford to get their hands on materials to read. So we are in a nation swamped in material. Free places, museums. You could just walk your ass here in DC, go down to the mall, and you'll be hard up to see a Black person go through a free museum. It's free. Everywhere else in the world, you pay $10, $20 just to walk through. It's free. Just go. And you can't get those Negroes to go down there. Most of the time, it's just they don't go. You go in there. In fact, everybody starts knowing you. There's so few Black people that go in. Everyone knows the Black people that go in. And it makes an impression that we're not interested in substantive things.
That should actually be the first thing, that if a person leaves from the town that they grew up in to another area, that should be the first thing you do is go to that library.
There are museums, libraries, books. DC abounds in it. Baltimore's got it. They've got these people, Black folks who've given their lives for that, to have this material. Enoch Pratt Free Library, special collections for people to have it. And you go and it's empty, or it's half filled, mostly filled with white people reading Black people's history, learn how to manipulate our asses, stealing barbecue sauce recipes. And you can't get, I remember begging my friends to go to the library, man, in the 70s. And they would never. You could do what they did, do firecrackers, do this, but library, nope. And going nowhere where there's any information or knowledge. And it's we get a little better with it with age. We wouldn't say no, we simply won't do it. Let's go back to Africa.
Someone asked, what percentage of Africans who come to the U.S. are of the upper caste from Africa?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. But what I will say to you is every African that gets here, unless they're walking across the border, they're connected somehow. There's somebody's piece of meat. They're in somebody's church. They've done military service. They've won the lottery, which makes them fortunate. They're from an elite family. They've gotten into a university. They have a special skill or a job. They're working as a maid or domestic for an important family. You can't just bring your ass into America from Africa. They make it very hard for Africans to come here, except for if you're from specific countries where they have a policy to undermine a country. So if a country that the United States hates, that they want to undermine, is Eritrea. Eritreans can get into America easily because they want the country to empty out to bring the regime down. So a lot of Ethiopians lie about being from Eritrea so they can get into the United States. People from Rwanda, because Paul Kagame is somehow connected to American military, who's trained out in Kansas, Leavenworth, and maybe connected to the intelligence community. People from Rwanda can get in here. Or you come through some diplomatic thing. You have to have something to get into this country from Africa because they don't want Africans here. So even if an African is broke, there was something that made them, whether it's determination, drive, connections, network, blowjob skills, carpet bunching skills, is something that they had that allowed their ass to get out of dusty ass Africa. Or they're rich, or they're business people. With that being said, or they're from one of the families that's stealing all the IMF World Bank money, or stealing all the foreign aid money, or stealing all the NGO money. That's the other way. You come to a non-governmental organization. Or there's another way. If you call yourself a persecuted minority, especially if you say you're gay, you can come to America. Okay, if you come from a certain country, like, there are going to be a bunch of gay Ugandans coming here. One day they're going to just live. And you know what? People who are not even gay that want to leave are going to say they're gay so they can get a visa. And they're probably going to start saying, you're going to have to prove that you're gay for at least 7 years. You have to keep a boyfriend for 7 years so we can take your visa away. Same way they had to change the marriage requirements because folks were marrying people and then dumping them. And that's the other way that Africans get in, is they do marriage fraud. But you have to do something special to game the system because they don't want Africans here, and I left out chain immigration. Once they do get through, they can bring over other people. So, yeah, doctor, nurse, inventor, your family's already here, you married somebody, and even the people that are going to have access to those things are typically going to be Africans that at least had something back where they came from. If you're making it on $1 a day and you're out in a rural area in Africa, and Africa's increasingly becoming an urban society, but even some of the urban slums, places like Kibera, you're not likely to meet many people from Kibera, which is a big slum of up to 5 million people in Nairobi. You may not meet anybody from Kibera in your lifetime in Kenya, here in the United States. But you might meet people from elite families, or people who got asylum, or people that went to an international organization like the UN or the World Health Organization, or something like this. There has to be something, unless you're just a rich-ass African. And the way that many Africans get their wealth, as rich as Africa is getting into the government and using the government like people in America do. The white people's money comes from stealing from the government, not sharing with the rest of the people. Those people are able to get over here.
Why?
I hope I answered that question. How the breakdown is, I don't know. However, if you do your research, African immigrants rank among the best educated people in the United States. High earners, a lot of them, business owners. And of course, the Africans do what Black Americans refuse to do. And I'm going to say this, Black American men are the biggest, weakest, cattiest, pathetic men on the earth because they refuse to work together. We run after everybody looking for a coalition, but we can't deal with each other. We tend to be petty and dogmatic about stupid stuff like what you call yourself or you're a Moor, and we can't even agree on a fucking name. You come up with something like Black that people have been using, and someone has to argue about that like you hate them. And so it has to be some name, and then other people. People look at us and they're amazed at how petty we are. These Africans come from these clans where the men hang tight. You got they function like an army, like a nation, like a people. We refuse to do that. We think that we can get people that hate us to somehow let us join up with them. It's stupid. It's a crackhead pipe dream.
Why is Nigeria sucking to France so hard in response to the Niger coup? And is the common Nigerian citizen in agreement with their government?
The Nigerian people and the Nigerian government are opposed to sending soldiers into Niger. If you were following within the last year or so, and it's been going on, the Nigerian government made it impossible for Nigerians to get their own money out of the banks to pay their bills. I mean, if you can't even have your own goddamn money, how are you going to afford to wage war on another group of people who aren't bothering you? So the Nigerian parliament is against it. The Nigerian people, and I mentioned earlier that the Hausa Fulani people in northern Nigeria that border Niger, and that border separates the Hausa Fulani people from their brothers who are also Muslim. They're not going to fight fellow Muslims of the same ethnic group. It's insane. That's not going to work. And I'm going to go further. There was a gas pipeline because the war that Joe Biden, that Obama started in 2014. The European Union is now acknowledging that the war and the Ukraine started in 2014 when a little nasty Jewish woman named Victoria Nuland, who work for who? Ofaga, the little moist nigga that you worship and you may vote for his man, his wife. Okay, they started this war 9 years ago. It's headed on 10. Because of this war in in Ukraine, the United States has blown up the gas pipelines to prevent the Europeans from getting natural gas from Russia. And that's messed up the economy of all of Western Central Europe, because it's hard for them to get stuff, as well as they have to do all these sanctions, which has been bad for the German economy, the French economy, and so forth. And it's not just the sanctions against Russia, it's the sanctions against Iran has cost the German government up to $100 billion every year for the last 10, 12 years. I mean, how many hits can you take like that? So the French are hurting. The French were selling 600,000 cars a year to Iran. And America says you can't sell cars to them because we hate them. So the French lose jobs. That's money. That's a nice amount of cars. The Iranians like French stuff. That's a whole nother conversation. All these countries are hurt from having sanctions against all these people. Sanctions against Zimbabwe. Sanctions against Cuba. Sanctions against Syria, a major trade partner with France. Sanctions against all these different places that these people need to make war on. And so the French found a way to get natural gas and fuel from Nigeria, a pipeline that would go through Niger. And once the Nigerians told the French to get the fuck out, if you look at what this bastard, Macron, he should be called Facron, he is trying to get energy for the French industries and for the French people to use domestically in their homes. And you can't get it from Russia. It costs too much for them to buy liquefied natural gas brought from the United States by ship. They were trying to get it at a price that they wanted from Nigeria. And this coup in Niger it's cut off the oil that they had already put the money down for. This one of the strongest corporations in the world is Aquitaine Elf, which is a French petrochemical, a hydrocarbon magnate that's all over the world, right? And by the way, that same Aquitaine Elf was behind trying to have a coup in Nigeria, not a coup, but a revolution in Biafra, which is in the East Delta of the Niger River, that Niger River East Delta. This from 1966 to 1970, up to 4 million Nigerians died. The French have strong investment in Nigerian oil. So they had this way to get some of this oil, to bring it through Niger and all this natural gas. Nigeria's got natural gas out the ass. If you go to Nigeria, you'll see, if you go to the East Delta, you'll see places where the gas burns all night like torches all over. This got cut by this coup when they got rid of the dude. They should call him Bozo, but his name is Bazoum. And by the way, Bazoum or Bozo, he's not even really. He's not a Jerma Songhai. He's not a Tuareg. He's not a House of Fulani. He's in this group that's sort of semi-nomadic called the Tubu, and they're sort of like, I don't know, they're the jack of all trades of selling out to whoever's paying the money. So they bring in this dude that's not even someone that's in the majority or major groups of the population. So nobody really likes this dude and knows who the fuck he is. But the white people say, well, we like him and you suck his ass, or we'll cut off to see if it right. So they have this dude and they get tired of him because he's lying and shit. And they have this coup. But part of what they did was they put him in for what? That goddamn pipeline. The same way in Afghanistan, Unical needed a gas pipeline that was going to go, I guess, from Afghanistan or something. And that's how they had to get rid of the what are these bastards? The Taliban wasn't letting them do shit with Unical. And they put that dude named Mohammed Karzai in charge of Afghanistan because they had some economic shit they wanted to do. The French had some economic shit that they wanted in Niger. They put Bozo in, and these folks kicked Bozo's ass out. They turned Bozo's ass out. And so Macron's ass is crazy. And the French They're not going to be able to bake no fucking bread if they can't get the uranium, which 1/3 of French power comes from Nigerian uranium, which is very good. And the French were getting that shit at basically a bargain basement snap card price. Uranium sells for something like, let's round it out to about $220 per kilo, which is 2.2 pounds. The French were paying 85 cents for a kilo. You can't get a kilo of potatoes for 85 cents in the United States, or grapes, right? Or greens, or bananas. Really, are you hearing me? You can't get 2.2 pounds of bananas for 85 cents. So the French have been stealing everything from Niger. And this dude that came in, who's cool as hell, I mean, I really like these new African dictators. They're really cool. I mean, shit, I had them up on my my Patreon page. I like them. I mean, this dude said, you know what? We want our motherfucking money. They want their MFM. And so they raised the price from 85 cents to 215 euros a kilo. And so you have to understand what that's going to do to fuel prices and food and everything, as the French are going to fucking choke or they're going to freeze. And what the fuck do the Nigerians care? They've never benefited. France is awash in gold. Niger has gold everywhere. When I went to Niger, I bought back some gold stuff. I must have paid about $2-3 to get gold. Real like 24 karat shit for like $2-3. And that it blew my mind how cheap gold was. This shit's like aluminum. I'm not trying to be funny. In Africa, certain people in Africa that you consider poor have gold all over the damn place. But because it doesn't receive the foreign exchange for its value, the Africans are getting robbed the same way Black Americans. The European age, so-called age of discovery, what it really should be is the European age of shoplifting, theft, and bum rushing everybody. They were pirates just taking shit, burning shit, taking it, acting like they cool, sort of like these women, these pork chop feminists that marry wealthy men, marry their ass, then they're in divorce court, sort of like what's going to happen to my distant cousin Steve Harvey with the sloppy second bitch he hooked up with. I'm telling the truth. Someone say amen. The French France is dead without stealing from its African colonies. France is nothing. White America is nothing. The wealth of white people, my friends, is us. They own us. They experiment on us, make medicines, take organs, keep the price of housing inflated. All you do is say someone Blacks moved in. But you know what? If you want to live in a neighborhood with no Blacks, if you pay another $200, $500 a month, we'll make certain no Black people. These people pay to not have to live around us. And when they want to take the land from white people, move a Black person in, make it seem like it's civil rights, then all the white people, the niggers are coming, right? They sell everything for almost nothing. They sell it to the niggas at a premium. White people used to live here. You know, a white man shit on this toilet stool. You can shit on this toilet stool just like a white person did. See? Isn't that great? Okay, so we're going to give you a cut on the deal. Their rent was $4,000 a month, but it's $3,000 for you. When the white people paid $1,500, the white people say, yeah, well, we stay in the white people's house and it costs less what they did. Well, I don't mind going into debt. Man, my wife's just going to have to sell some pussy so we can live in a place that white people used to live in. This is a good neighborhood, right? And the roof's falling in. The foundation's not good. It's on top of a toxic waste dump. And you know what happens? They let the drugs come in because the banks make all the money from the drug deals, people. The banks are behind the drugs. It's not our little thugs in the corner. They're just direct distributors. They're retail salespersons for that. The real money goes to rich white banking families. So they let the drugs and shit come in, We end up not wanting to die if you love your kids and you have to move to another white neighborhood you can't afford to get away from the black people who've been kept poor, and their poverty is used as a cash machine. It's a profit center for us to be kept poor. That means the drugs keep flowing, the alcohol keeps flowing. You could do all kinds of stuff, experiment and give everybody bad food, give them diabetes, and develop diabetes medicine to sell all over the world so other people get poisoned by the genetically modified shit that we have here. And they keep making money. Slavery never ended. It's the same thing over in Africa. They never let those countries free. They don't respect African countries. When they tell African countries get the fuck out, that you don't have an African head of state say, I'm not going to have my ambassador come home. You can't make me, and our troops going to stay. When white folks say get the fuck out, your ass is gone. Except for if you're illegal or you're somebody's sex toy or whatever, then let your ass stay. So what's happened? The French are faced with their existence being nullified as a country by the economic changes among these courageous African men who've had coups, who've gotten rid of these sorry ass-sucking people. And in the case of Nigerians, again, the Nigerians have to get rid of this guy. Tinubu never really won the election. They haven't determined. He probably had the election stolen the same way they put in Buhari, who was full of shit, and helped start these wars between the Christian and Muslims in northern Nigeria. Tinubu was a bag man. He was involved with drug sales and shit in the Midwest. And so they have something on him. And so, again, Tinubu is a person that they know everything about. I hope they don't have any pictures with him messing with kids and shit. And the pipeline and all that shit got negotiated with Tinubu's ass in there. And Tinubu has got to do something. And if he tries to bust a move, the Nigerian military may come in and shut his ass down. And see, they picked the wrong dude because, you know, the two groups that fight the most, big groups, okay, in terms of ethnicity, there's a degree, although there's a lot, you know, there's some fine ass people in Nigeria. And Nigerians love fucking like black people do everywhere. It used to be where people just completely like were in one region or the other. But with the Biafran War and other things and the creation of the new capital city, Abuja, which moved all kinds of people from various regions to the center of Nigeria, you have a lot more families where people are mixed, where you have an Ibibio Hausa or an Ijaw Hausa or Isakiri Hausa or a Brass Ijaw Hausa, or you have a Kanuri Hausa, you have an Isakiri. I mean, you can get a Bendel Hausa. You've got these blended families, and a lot of these people, Hausa, are Christian, whereas it used to be almost exclusively Muslim. So there's got all this damn overlap going on. So it's how Nigeria is going to go is going to be kind of complicated. And then at the same time, the Igbos and the Hausas, they kind of know where they stand. But the in-between group is a Yoruba, which is kind of split three ways between the traditional African juju voodoo bullshit that a lot of niggas run after. They like this Yoruba stuff as if it's black, and they don't realize white folks get to become Yoruba priests, and then they go down the night to Brazil and fuck all the black men, and you have to like be a trans to become a priest down in Brazil. And they claim that going through that process of being a woman, dressing like a woman, and walk around with fake titties makes you gay. Yeah, that's an African religion that the liar conscious community niggas won't tell you about. They're fucking liars. Okay, I mean, if a dude can wear a dress, that's what he has to do to get close to his African gods, then they shouldn't have any beef about faggots singing the choir in the Christian church. At least their asses are being honest. And they don't say, well, they try to become a priest in one of those religions so they can say, well, the woman overtook me and the spirits made me gay. They call it two spirits, right? Whereas a person in church say, well, Dick feel good, God's going to forgive me. No, he's not. And so you got this Yoruba bullshit that they're on. Was this Juju and the Oyo, not Oyo, but the, what's this thing called? We have it here. Juju is like the witchcraft part of it. I'm trying to think of what you call, but I'm just saying Yoruba religions, but we have it here, Santeria and Candomblé in Brazil. Santeria is for people in the Caribbean. They have the Yoruba shit, and I'm not remembering, the Orishas and Ogun and all this other kind of stuff. It's sort of like the original stuff that the white people call Zeus and all that other kind of stuff. Africans had it first. Africans had paganism before white people did, because white people come from black people. So you got your Yoruba religion, you got the Yoruba who are Hausa, and you got the Yoruba who are Christian. And Tinubu is a Yoruba Muslim. So they kind of don't completely trust his ass. So he's on shaky ground. But the Yoruba often get with the Hausa to fuck over the Igbos, even though in many ways the Yoruba are a lot more like the Igbo than they are like the Hausa. But, you know, the Yoruba were a major source of slaves or enslaved Africans sent to the New World because they were busy fighting and dogging each other. In fact, Lagos, the most populous city in Africa, or it's secondary to Cairo, was one of the world's largest slave ports because folks were just selling each other. So with all that good African religion just led to them killing and selling and fighting each other. Yes, I said it's just like that. And it was petty, and they had decades and decades of fighting each other and not being able to get along. And just like Negroes with this whole freedman and Negro and black and Aboriginal and Pretrendian and so forth, they've got their little key cities. You've got Ife, you've got Abeokuta, you've got Oyo, you've got, what's this place, Ibadan. You've got these key old Yoruba cities, and they have their clans and sub-clans and so forth. I mean, oh God, it's kind of messy, but there are people, and some of them are really nice looking. They got the nice round faces and shit. The people in Nigeria, I don't think that they want their country to bust up, and they have to be careful because the United States is very leery of the potential power of Nigeria. If the Nigerians ever could get it together, but it's sort of like saying Jesus is coming back or black people going to get free. You know, I'm not betting my money on none of that shit. And I'm a Christian. You come back, okay. All right, dude. Right. Or black people getting free, or black women valuing black men, or black women like being loyal and shit. Or black men discovering that their dick is in the center of the universe. These aren't things that you really would waste a lot of time expecting. I mean, of course you want it to happen, but, you know, you just have no clue of it ever happening, right? So back to Nigeria. Nigeria is a wild card. And the French don't like Nigeria either. So the Americans and the French have a desire to bust up Nigeria, because the French have always feared Nigeria taking over Niger. Nigeria has the military means to take over a bunch of countries that belong to France. They could take Togo, they could take Benin, they could take over Cameroons, they could take over Chad. They could displace the French. They're the one force. You have to understand that 50% or more of the people that live in West Africa are Nigerian. And then Nigerians in Ghana, Nigerians and Sierra Leone, Nigerians in Cote d'Ivoire, they are everywhere. And they're interconnected, related groups. So, it's like Benin, they're Benin people, both in Benin and in Nigeria. I mean, these things, these divisions that white people have made up and took all these things countries, that's what they imagine it being, instead of what these folks are talking about between, say, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali becoming an African superstate. They don't want something like that. Now, Nigeria there's a thing called the Africa Crisis Response Initiative that was launched in the 80s, where people are thinking about ways to break Nigeria into 5 different countries, although they know that such a breakup within Nigeria would create a super bloody civil war that could easily claim 10, 15 million lives. But they don't mind seeing that many Africans die. That would bring the population down. That would allow people to get their little oil and get this stuff on. And it would also landlock certain people, and it would do what people wanted. You see, they made Nigeria into one country to serve the economic interests of the British Empire and the Royal African Company. Now, once they no longer need this Nigeria that they invented, then maybe they bust it open. And the other problem that they have is Nigeria's population is projected to reach 1 billion in a few years. That means there'll be more Nigerians than Americans. You can't keep all those people in that little country. They're going to spread out. And the more Africans you have, the more Africans going to need their own gold, their own oil, their own coltan, their own diamonds. It's their shit anyway. It's theirs. And that's the other reason that they want to decimate. I believe they want all these wars in Africa. It's a means to get people to kill one another. Understand something. If the Igbos hadn't lost 3-4 million people in the Biafran War, assuming that those people had procreated the way that they do, you'd probably have 100 million Igbos today, maybe 120 the way that they procreate. They don't want Africans strong. They don't want us strong in America. Nigeria is a threat to white supremacy. The biggest problem is that Nigerians don't think of themselves as black. They see themselves as Igbo, as Efik. They see themselves as they see themselves sort of Nigerian in a loose sense, yeah. But in terms of understanding that basically they're just niggers to the other people, right? And on the world stage, this isn't necessarily understood by a critical mass of Africans, that they're seen as subhuman monkeys, just like their half-breed cousins in the Americas. We're forced to know in Africa, a lot of this stuff isn't really relevant. Racism and white supremacy is sort of not something that they get. They get tribalism, but they don't get racism. They don't really see it as a problem.
This last question, you guys, I'm going to read for Emery. What about Gabon? Do you think the coup is legit?
No.
New commander is related, but his cabinet...
No, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And so Bongo's son and his little white wife that doesn't love him, that's got another boyfriend that's stealing everything, you let their asses leave and keep all the money. Bullshit. When the people there don't have anything, nope. It's not real. It's in fact, if in fact it were real, the French and the other people would be talking about coming through there and shutting them down. That they work with the French. Proof, if they really were against that, if they were really against coups, if that coup was really for the people, they'd be trying to take their asses down. And they have the capacity to shut Gabon down. It's a weaker country. It's less populated. I mean, Nigeria has multiple cities with almost as many people as Gabon has. It's a sellout. And these people knew that the Bongo was so unpopular for their fraud and their stealing until they needed to change that. It's like new management, same shit. It's sort of like changing positions from a missionary to female superior. You're still fucking.
You guys in the chat, remember, like, share, subscribe.
We need to do a part 2 to this because we didn't get deep enough into this.
And it's very important that everybody look at we did a video about 2 months ago Africa is no, French is Africa's F word. It's very important that you watch that or listen to that show because it basically was the template on what was about to happen in Niger. And then this show as well. And then, like Dr. Short said, we'll do a part 2 to this.
We need to do a part 2 on this soon. And I just need you to add a couple of these dictators things. I want to run through these people real fast because certain people are going to bitch and complain that we didn't get you the personalities on the card.
Okay.
So I'm going to go from left to right. You see Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation. He is the sodomite ex-mayor of South Bend. It should be South Bendo because he was head. Indiana, he's racist. He is the mentee of the dude who's got the red tie on the left side, whose name is Bobby Wine. He's an oppositional parliamentary leader in Uganda. He's basically a covert gay rights advocate. He was in D.C. just within the last few days. They are trying to use Bobby Wine to advance the gay agenda in Uganda. And so Bobby Wine is there. That's who Obama and all of them want to be head of state. Not Trump, but Obama and Biden want this dude. He's young and he's a musician. A lot of people like him. And he's more liberal than Museveni. And so I did that. Now, the guy who looks like he's up on Buttigieg's butt and he's smiling, that's Alfonso David. He is a Liberian sodomite who was the president of the nation's most powerful sodomite organization called the, what's that damn thing called? The Human Rights Campaign, HRC, which was started by the money came from, there's a thing called the Falcon Group. The Falcon Group was a pornography group with a black person that was a stylist for making gay porn to make gay sex beautiful and appealing. I'm forgetting the guy's name. It'll come to me. But the Falcon Group, which is based out of San Francisco, and the dude, by the way, died. I think he died of AIDS, and forgive me for not remembering dude's name. But he put the seed money in to create basically a dick-sucking NAACP. And Alfonso David was head of the dick-sucking NAACP for a couple of years, but he was too tight with Andrew Cuomo, and he got kicked out. But he's from Liberia. And so they're beginning to bring gay Africans and put them up and make it seem as if they're black. When they can't get blacks to go along with the gay stuff, they bring in gay Africans that have, that sound like, sort of like they have these African actors and actresses playing black Americans. They're now getting gay tethers to come and put them up and advance them. I think there's a gay tether who's going to be a congressman, the first black one for Rhode Island. Keep your eyes peeled. Remember I told you this shit. He's from Ghana. I think the name is Amo. I hope he's not gay, but he could be because they're all behind him. And it's interesting, behind. But what you need to know about this dude, David, is that he helped organize this farce on Washington that was basically a tribute to Bayard Rustin and man on man and woman on woman sex behind the guise of civil rights and baby killing. He's head of this thing called the Global Black Initiative. So they're going to make him this international leader for black people. But what they're really pushing is the rainbow. The person that looks like they have a Korean hair store cap on his head, that's Tinubu. He looks like he used some of the product when he was selling drugs. Look at him. Of course, that's Biden. He doesn't know where he is, but he's hoping that there's some naked kids somewhere nearby. The dude who's got the big head, he's Nguesso. He's a dictator of choice or the dictator du jour for the Congo-Brazzaville. Congo-Brazzaville is a country of about 180 some odd thousand square miles that is on the western side of the Congo River that borders the Congo, Kinshasa, or the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There are two Congos. One of the Congos was controlled by the Belgians. That's the bigger one. And the smaller one is the one that the French had, that had a French mass killer by the name of Brazza. They killed about half of all the people in the Central African Republic were murdered by the French under Brazza. And so the capital city is named for their killer, Brazzaville. How about that? See, Africans don't tear their statues down like Negroes here. They keep the shit. They need to change it. Anyway, Nguesso has been head of state in the Congo for maybe about 30 years. He's had it in different stints. He had it for a short period of time, and the people got mad, threw him out because he had a one-party state. He tried to overtake the state, then he stopped, and then he ran, and he's been head of state since the early 2000s. So he's been president altogether 27, 28 years. He's crooked. He lies. He dogged out a friend of mine. He got rid of this dude. He helped in the early 2000s. There was a guy named, I think it's Pascal Lasuba. I was helping an African family. I was feeding the whole family, as broke as I was, dude. And so when people say he hates Africans, this guy's name was Ampha Sambao, was the minister in Pascal Lasuba's government. He was working as a security guard at Howard University. And I remember dude out one day just looking frustrated. And I asked him up. He said his family had no food. So I gave him all the food in my house. And I gave him my paycheck. So if you ever hear someone hates Africans, yes, I'm critical of every damn body. I treat everybody the same. But I did not want this man's family. He had stood up for his country. I didn't want his family to be hungry. So I had a whole lot of food, and I gave him my paycheck. And of course, that's Bobby Wine. He was here at the Congressional Black Caucus lobbying to try to take down Museveni, the one that doesn't want people fucking kids. And next to him, the dude that looks like a black Dr. Evil, he is the dictator. His name is, I'm forgetting the first name. The last name is Talon. Talon is like the dictator that shouldn't be head of state in Benin.
Patrice Talon.
Huh?
Patrice Talon.
Patrice, yeah, that's right, Patrice Talon. He's in that country where all you stupid ass people that went to see the stud king or woman king, whatever that shit was, Benin, and that was a fucking lie. I'm glad the thing didn't crack $1 million in the box office. But to show you how evil Benin is, this dude has the French soldiers are in his country poised to attack the people in Burkina Faso and Mali and Guinea and Niger. And in fact, if you see the news today, the government of Burkina Faso prevented a coup. They've been trying to kill the head of state in Burkina Faso. He's the most dynamic of all the leaders. And last but not least, and you didn't put the picture with his used up white wife. This dude, his name is his name is Ouattara. What's Ouattara's first name, dude? Is it Laurent Ouattara? No. What's Ouattara's first name? Hold on. And there are a whole bunch of damn names to try to remember.
Alassane
Ouattara. Alassane Ouattara is a French stooge who's married to a Jewish woman who's been the sloppy seconds for a lot of African generals and stuff. So dude hooked up with somebody's secondhand bargain basement pussy. She's the first lady. A lot of first ladies in Africa are white women that fuck everybody. Just in case you thought Negroes from areas like Pennsylvania and Ohio and Minnesota were unselective about white women, African men, the same thing. Well, that old white magic, not that old black, but that old white magic has them in this power. Ouattara tried to be president. He's not even a citizen of, he's not a naturalized citizen of Ivory Coast, but he's someone that the French could use because Ivory Coast has the second best economy in West Africa. The first is Nigeria. So Ivory Coast was like the diamond of the former French colonies in West Africa. It was the first country, it and Guinea. Guinea, the people told the French to get the fuck out under Torre. And the people in Ivory Coast were led by this get along Negro whose name is Houphouët Boigny, who was head of state from about 1958 to 1993 or 94. Then his ass died. He croaked. He was very old. But there was a dude who came to power who's from a group that a lot of people don't like because they don't kiss white people's ass. They're called the Beti. The Beti people live in Guinea. They live in Western Ivory Coast. They live in Liberia. And they're like the crew. They don't kiss ass. They will fight you. They don't want to bow down to people. So Gbagbo got power, and Gbagbo wanted to break away from using the fucked up French monopoly money called the CFA, which stands for the Central Financière Africaine. Really, it's monopoly money that's pegged to the French money, and basically it's a way to rip off Africans. He wanted to have his own currency where their rich country could benefit from their wealth, and the French decided to destabilize the country, keep causing civil wars and shit. And when that didn't really work, when they couldn't get the UN to fuck them like they wanted, they basically had a coup. And they had a bunch of thugs come in, and they took power in 2010, 2011, about the same time they took out Gaddafi. They did some mass murders of the people with helicopter gunships, killing black people. And, it's amazing how much Africans love white people when they get to America. And yet the white folk be killing their ass and using people to kill their ass, and they're mad at black Americans. I'm talking about we need a Holy Ghost delivery service for some of these demons of worshiping white people to come up off of Negroes. We're not Christians and Muslims. We worship white people. I don't meet people who truly believe in Allah, and I don't meet people who truly believe in God Almighty. If they did, we could see eye to eye on some shit. Now, let me just say to you that Ouattara, they wanted Gbagbo out. And they had all the civil wars, doing massacres and shit, and eventually they divide the country in half. You have to understand that the same shit that's happening to black people, with all these illegals in our neighborhood, the French and other people have folks moving into Ivory Coast. Lots of people are Muslims, not even the country. They're not from Ivory Coast. And they swamped the real Ivorians with all these foreigners and shit. And Ouattara is one of those foreigners who shouldn't even be running for president, but he has power. So they got rid of Gbagbo, threw his ass in jail. He was in the International Criminal Court in Europe. He got acquitted, but not before they bombed him in the palace. It's alleged they abused his wife in front of him when they attacked the palace and took it over. Ouattara has overstayed his legal right to be in, and what he keeps doing is trying to manipulate the Constitution to stay in. And on top of that, he's had a lot of ministers die, like about 4 of the key ministers in Ivory Coast have died one after the other. These are the kind of people that he could fake and make them be like his, a dick ring proxy, that they could run for office and he'd run everything. All of his stooges like that he can trust have died. So he's trying to violate the Constitution to stay. And if you noticed, they're not telling him to step down. America's not telling him. France isn't telling him. And he's the one that's also promised to help send soldiers from Ivory Coast to fight these other people as part of ECOWAS. So you have these two illegitimate people, and Nigeria and Ivory Coast are the backbone to this ECOWAS bullshit. They don't even have the mandate to invade other countries, but because white folks said, and they've got, a shank up my ass, so they own me or something, they got, a leash on my dick, I have to do what they say, even if my own people don't want it. But I'll tell you something. If Ouattara sends Ivorians in to fight these other people, you may have a civil war or you may have a coup against Ouattara because people are tired of his ass stealing elections. People don't want him. They don't like him. And on top of that, why would he invade Burkina if his family's from there? Those folks would see him as a traitor. His own folks may take his ass out. And back to the little nigga with the glasses that looks like the Dr. Evil. He's a dictator in Benin. He's a stooge. He's a suck up to the French. He's like what Clyburn is. Whatever the French want, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got these kinds of sorry ass Africans. These are the kind of motherfuckers that come here who hate us. They're really good African people. They don't let their asses come here because they're afraid they'll hook up with us. They don't send real Black Americans to Africa. When you're over there, you meet all these fake ass people. I don't like, when I normally see Black Americans traveling, I get scared. Either they're there for sex, either they're to fake. It's seldom meet people that they're all in the tourist areas. They're not really trying to hook up or meet or know or build anything with African people. They're there to flaunt, hey, I'm from America. Look, I've got a Rolex watch. It costs $5,000. Do you realize it would take you the rest of your life to afford this watch with $1 a day? I mean, you see these people flaunting their cameras and shit. These stupid ass, or the Black American women who, are basically got, ice cubes in their pussy in America, didn't want to fuck every person they think has a big dick in another country. And I mean, it's strange. And I mean, we do dumb shit. We have a lot of people traveling abroad making us look bad. It's a disgrace. We're going to come back to this, brother, and you need to get to me early in the day. And then we can't, I don't think we can do it tomorrow because it's Thursday. We need to sit down. We methodically talk about how they're fucking over the people of the Sahel. This is an introductory conversation. Let's take 2 more questions and let's close out.
That's it. We got all the questions through.
Oh, we done?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's time to do a commercial. This channel needs you to like it, and he needs some motherfucking money. His Cash App is Let's Talk To, right?
Yes.
Let's Talk To.
L Talk 5600.
Yeah, we absolutely. And I've got a Patreon under Dr. Randy Short. I'm going to send you that information so we can start doing that. Y'all need to know that we're launching another channel. I'm going to continue to work with this guy who's a phenomenal interviewer, and he's a great parliamentarian. I mean, nobody would believe that there's any kind of anything but lawful regulation. Nigga, you're a parliamentarian and shit. You should be in Congress.
Emory, let me just answer Emory, Dr. Short. Emory, you asking me questions or Dr. Short questions in reference to some stuff that we're not talking about.
That's right.
I will remember the questions, and me and Dr. Short discuss. We have a conversation every day, at least. And we're going to talk about politics one of these days. It's not that Dr. Short or myself don't like politics. Actually, we do.
Well, what's that political about what we're talking about right now? That's dense. That's dense. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't like cults. I'm a preacher's kid. I don't like cults. And I don't like bad spirits. That's why we have moderators. There are all kinds of people. There's spaces. They argue and fight and show contempt for each other all day long on Twitter. I'm certain you can find a group and argue. I think they argued for 7.5 hours the other day. Marcel and them, I mean, y'all can argue all night, argue about sexuality, argue about this stuff. I mean, that's not this kind of party. I'm above that. I make stuff accessible. I don't talk like I have a broom up my ass or I have a whole bunch of degrees because it's not that important. It's more important to get concepts and facts out. For people who can't appreciate that, they need to go to another platform. Go to where you can have all these contentious arguments over minutiae. Really. It reminds me of Cobra. That's why I fucking quit them. I just argue all the time.
You got Bruce asking last question. Bruce came in with the will kick. He said, can Dr. Short squeeze last question if it's related? I see what looks like a bunch of Africans coming over during this alien invasion. are they most likely to be sent back? Only way that they'll be sent back is if Donald Trump becomes president.
I think that if enough Africans come across the border, white people will change. Everything changes with black people. That's what I'm thinking. It's kind of nice. Notice they had not really paid attention to people coming across the border until all those niggas, like 400 niggas, came. Millions of people come to the country. Let 300 niggas come across. Oh shit! Shit. Okay, they're going to change if it's black people. I talk to people all over Africa every day, and I just talk to people. Folks are now flying to Mexico. Mexico's having a tourism boom. All these people flying into Mexico now and just walking across. If you ever get that shit out there in their head, because Africans go into debt, Africans are dying by the thousands being eaten. I mean, they're basically like popcorn for the movie. African migrants in the Mediterranean are popcorn for the sharks. These people who don't want to get eaten by sharks or drown, it's cheaper to just take a flight to Mexico. And just pay some people. I mean, they're used to hardship, drinking dirty water and shit, and they cross the border and they come over. If they've got family and shit here, they hooked up. Unlike black Americans of late who don't work with one another or like one another, or all in these little stupid groups that are petty that can't refuse to see eye to eye like bitches and think they're men. All this stupid ass fighting and no smoke for white supremacy, no smoke for anything except for another black person trying to work with them. It's some effeminate, passive aggressive bullshit that's going nowhere. Let's go, man.
With that, everyone remember, like, share, subscribe. We should have at least 50 people liking this video as we're watching the video. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it, but I suggest that you like the video. Yeah. This allows that thing, the algorithm, to suggest the video to other like-minded people. Still, you always hear people always saying like.
We never have to ask our white followers to like it.
And believe me, that we do have it. It's an interesting thing within the analytics that you could tell who watches your videos. So make sure you guys
the white people always like it. It's the black people you have to remind. Why is that? And it's the black ones that say you can't cuss, and the black ones that I'm telling you, we need Holy Ghost revival. Bring some, get some religious leader, put some blessed oil on these Negroes. But military age men, in fact, let me share something with y'all. One of the ways that you can become a citizen is serving the U.S. military. I believe they're going to round these people up and use some of these people as mercenaries for the war that's likely to happen in Ukraine. For the war, they're going to have people in uniform. And if you think about it, you think a bunch of dumpy broads that think that they're dudes are going to be good combat material? Where when you tell them that they can't fit their uniform and they tell their officer they're being body shamed, they've been using foreigners to fight America's wars increasingly over the last 25 years. And they'll use these people, they're young men of military age, they'll have them fighting all over the world. They're going to make them pay for being here. The white folk always have something in mind. It may not work out, but they have something in mind. So military age is exactly, remember, the United States military recruitment is at an all-time low. Hint, hint, hint. Military age, they'll let them come in. America can be a roach motel when they want something. It was a roach motel for our ancestors who came over by ship. It's a roach motel for people brought from Europe by ship. Roach motel for people who are aborigines. You're black now, chains. Right. They have a plan. It may not be well constructed. It may fail, like a lot of things, like Biden. But if Trump becomes president, and I think he might, and I want to warn this to all of our sisters and all the LGBTQ brothers out there that think that these foreign dudes will be some nice trick. Say, oh my God, what is it? They had organic food. I know they can keep an erection. A lot of folks are going to get killed, getting either raped, robbed, molested, or abused, messing around. I saw something today where this black woman with really tight clothes with a big, fat, bubblicious ass at the giant And these dudes, Latino dudes in the school, literally was going to try to palm her ass on their motorcycle. Had there not been people out, they would have tried something. They're not just military age. They're horny as fuck. Someone's going to have to give up some pussy, and it's not going to be me. And I know it's not going to be Q. Some of us are armed. So sisters, y'all want to go out and jog and you don't need no man, you sure going to need one if a bunch of them want to run a train on you. And you're going to need them to have a gun. The kind of shit y'all tell us not to have guns. All of a sudden, there's going to be an explosion, a great explosion in black women buying firearms. There's going to be an explosion of missing kids like this shit in Ohio. And black folks don't stick together. We'll be the easy people to rip off, the ones in foster care that are homeless, just walking around with your ass exposed, your titties hanging out, thinking it's my right. And he thinks it's his right to grab you by the titty or grab you by the pussy. And he may have a Trump hat on. We better wake the hell up. Let's go, man. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.